Tonight's guest is a dynamic artist by the name of Tufawon. Artist, rapper, producer, singer, multi hyphenate, activist, right? You do all the things.
Yeah, that's me.
I'm glad to have you tonight. And I was reading a little bit about you and, of course, listening to your music. And you're from Minnesota, the land of Prince, land of the purple one.
That's right.
so, tell me a little bit about your background. Like, did you are you from St. Paul specifically?
No, I'm from Minneapolis. I'm from the South Side.
Okay, okay. So yeah, tell me about like growing up in Minnesota and like just the all of the elements that influenced the person you became today.
Yeah, totally. So the whole reason why I'm here is because I'm indigenous to Minnesota on my mom's side. We are Wakantuan Dakota,
Hmm.
and I'm also Boricua. So those I'm coming from a mixed heritage. And Minnesota's influence on me. I mean, I've been here my whole life, and
Hmm.
it's amazing. It's beautiful. There's a lot of history, a history of art and music, a rich history and like protest movement and pushing back against the state.
Yeah,
There's a lot, and it's also nature is really beautiful here. It's the
I
land
can
of over
imagine.
10,000 lakes. It's kind of the beginning or ending point of the Great Lakes as well, depending on how you look at it. Lake Superior in the North Shore, and so it's incredibly beautiful. I've been here the whole time. The winters can be pretty brutal.
So I've heard.
You got to be built for it, and I totally am. And so yeah, I mean, it's it's a unique place again with a lot of history.
That's awesome. Okay. And so, I mean, there's a lot there, just like in terms of your background in the music you probably heard growing up. Like, talk about that. I mean, like, was this salsa, um, Prince? Like, talk about some of
hmm
your influences and what the sounds that you heard.
Yeah, totally. I mean, growing up, it was like R&B and hip hop of the time, and I was just very influenced and inspired by especially the black community and the artists innovating so many different genres. We have a lot to thank as far as like the black community and the involvement and the innovation
Hmm.
of so many different music genres. And then, of course, my own cultural background being Puerto Rican on my dad's side, of course, yes, salsa music was there. Like growing up, my dad would have, salsa music playing in the tape deck, and so it
Yeah.
was a part of the backdrop. It was part of my upbringing. And yeah, I mean, just growing up and being around the city environment, especially hip hop is
Hmm.
very prevalent wherever I went, whether it was I grew up next to the freight trains, and there was always like graffiti on the trains. In school, like we were battling and freestyling, and you know, hip hop culture was definitely very very prevalent, and it was a part of my upbringing, and it was definitely and still is very present in Minneapolis. And so
Hmm.
yeah, we have like a very unique independent music scene here.
Hmm.
And that's had a lot of influence on really who I am. The pioneers of Minneapolis hip hop, they were the ones that they came a couple generations before me, and they were the ones that really paved the way. And so there's like a infrastructure here that's kind of built for artists, and so there's all kinds of open mics happening and music venues all over the place,
Hmm.
coffee shops that you can perform at. And there's really an infrastructure that supports the artist here, and that had, a huge impact, as well as just having mentorship, having awesome artistic mentors who showed me how to make beats and how to write bars and how to write songs and what have you. I mean, we have an abundance of that here, and that's definitely had its impact, on me as an artist for sure.
Nice. And so Minnesota is pretty scrappy. Like, I mean, I'm learning a lot more about Minnesota beyond, I gotta say, beyond Prince. But no, just unfortunately because of how it's been in the spotlight over the past few months, maybe almost a year at this, maybe more than that, right? Like with the ICE raids and everything going on.
Hmm.
You know, tell me about your involvement in the raids and like just using your platform to speak out against these atrocities.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, in December of 2025, Donald Trump made the announcement to deploy over 3,000 federal ICE and Border
Mhm.
Patrol agents
Mhm.
across the Twin Cities metro area. Um, and this was very much an attack on our Somali community, even though the
Mhm.
majority of the Somali community members here are actually citizens.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
the claim was that this was had to do with Somali community members engaging in some type of
Yeah, I remember
daycare
that.
fraud. Yeah, which was totally false, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so there were like far right. Um, Social media influencers that came here with that claim, and it was false, but it brought a lot of attention from the Trump administration.
Mhm. Mhm.
They deployed all of these federal ICE agents, saying that this was an anti-immigration, crackdown to catch and deport um, violent criminals, even though 74% of the uh, people who have been detained have no criminal record. So this is
Mhm.
really, it's not really about immigration. It's just about power and control over the
Yeah.
people, and so the people of Minneapolis, we really took a stand and we fought back and we got really organized. And so there are many different levels, whether it was mutual aid, helping our immigrant relatives who are
Mhm.
afraid to leave their houses with
Mhm.
food and supplies, or showing up to protest, or a general strike that really made
Mhm.
an
Mhm.
impact, or especially people who are outside patrolling and keeping an eye on ICE activity, and legal observers. There were so many different levels, but we really stood up to it, and the history behind it. I mean, you go back to George Floyd. We learned so many different skills from the uprising after George Floyd was murdered, and we were there in
Mhm.
solidarity with the Black community. We were taking care of each other. Mutual aid became a really prevalent thing. You go back to Jamar Clark and Philando Castile, all these
Mhm.
police brutality cases. You go back to the American Indian movement, which was started here. So AIM, the American Indian movement, is like essentially similar to like the Black Panthers for the
Mhm.
Black
Mhm.
community, right? Or the Young Lords for the Puerto Rican community, right?
Okay.
Um, and so the formation of the American Indian movement started as a response to police brutality and the mistreatment of Native people in
Mhm.
Minneapolis. And then you go as far as back as my ancestors, the Dakota people who fought against the United States in war for stealing our land, encroaching upon our land, and not keeping their promises to provide food after taking our land and whatnot. And so our history of resistance goes all the way back to the beginning of the so-called nation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Cool. Yes, I'm in New York. I'm in Brooklyn, and I live in a neighborhood that is very heavily immigrant, mostly people from the Caribbean. But we've been dealing with our own issues as well. It's not as easy because New York is so spread out. So like it's harder to make a spectacle of it. Like that would end up,
Hmm.
I'm guessing, on the news the way Minnesota has, right? But it's kind of a similar thing. Like people on message boards and signal, like, hey, I
Yep.
spotted here, there, blah blah blah. We got this,
Hmm.
and this is a scrappy neighborhood too. Like there's signs on the window, like ice out, get the fuck out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
um,
exactly it.
yeah, yeah. No, I love that. And
Hmm.
just the bravery to be able to do that and to you have a big platform and it might not be like, the biggest, but it's big. You have followers,
Hmm.
you have a platform, and you use your music, you use your artistry to really like get that message out there. And that being said, I want to highlight your single "No One Is Illegal."
Mhm.
I'm of the belief that nobody is illegal as well.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
so, talk about the song. Came out in March, but it's an anthem. It's definitely a protest anthem, and I think we need more of that from artists of today, period.
Yeah, absolutely. I did the song in response to obviously what's happening, especially during Metro Surge. During the height of the surge, I felt like I was too busy just being on the ground to like work on music, even though
Mhm.
I used my own social media platform to spread awareness and cover what was going on the ground. But no one is illegal. I took so many of these images that I witnessed and the energy of the whole city during the time of Operation Metro Surge, and that's kind of what fueled this song, right? And
Mhm.
it's a protest anthem. It's very call and response. I was very intentional about doing the chorus in that way to where we could easily just pull up to a rally and do the song and people will
Yeah.
be chanting it back and forth. And I was very influenced by the people who are on the ground out there protesting. And so I felt like it was necessary. I think it's still prevalent, and it's still. I'm currently working on a music video for it, which
Okay.
I'm excited about. I got some shoots coming up this weekend, and yeah, I mean, I just went on tour in Europe, and it was pretty much
Oh,
like the
wow.
theme song. It was like the theme song, and it was the tour was really about pushing European banks to divest their money from ICE contractors. So
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
contracting and funding corporations like Core Civic and Geo Group, who are building these huge detention centers to lock people up in, especially children, and our immigrant relatives. And so they're also funding Palantir. Palantir is using AI
Yeah.
kill technology, surveillance technology on us during the
Mhm.
surge.
Mhm.
And so I was on this tour, and essentially the song was front and center of the whole tour. I was out there for 3 weeks, mainly in Switzerland, France, and the Netherlands. And it was amazing. It was a great way to continue to work towards pushing back against ICE.
Mhm.
Again, I think the song is still relevant, especially because we're seeing an uptick are in different parts of the country. So this whole issue and this whole everything is really it's very national at this point. Things are going down in so many different places, and they've been
Mhm.
going down. I mean, shoot,
Yeah.
Texas, even before Minnesota, Texas was already getting lit up by ICE and border patrol. Same with
Mhm.
Cali. And I feel like having a song like this kind of builds this, not only this resilience and solidarity across Minnesota, but it builds that solidarity across the nation, as well as when it comes down to it, this is an international issue because we're
Yeah.
talking about people who are from different parts of the world ripping families apart,
Mhm.
and being deporting people who have been, many whom have been legally going through the process of getting their residency
Yes.
or right, and they're getting sent back to different countries and being deported. And so this is very much an international issue. It's a national issue, and it's also a Minnesota thing for sure because
Yeah.
obvious reasons.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, it's crazy even seeing people who feel like, initially they were supporting all, and I mean, I gotta say, it goes. I mean, this president has turned it up, but that sort of sentiment and the hyper deportations kind of have been going on for years. Maybe the violence is even more turned up
Hmm.
now because the media is making more of a spectacle of it. But yeah, like, I mean, I had to explain to my daughter who is 9, like, we're walking around neighborhood, she sees a sign on the business that says, "ICE is kidnapping our neighbors," and she's like, "What does that mean? What is ICE? What's happening? Blah blah blah." And she's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, is does that mean so and so? redactive relative who is an American citizen, but isn't also an immigrant. Like, what does that mean for them? She's asking these questions. So I think it is definitely an international issue, and it is something that I feel like sometimes people try to use certain things like, oh, we want to keep certain people from, like, we want to keep children from having these conversations, and it's like, no, these children are having conversations. Some of these children are being detained, and I'm just trying to say, I'm kind of echoing what you were saying. It's an international issue. It's like everybody's in this. We're all in this,
Mhm.
whether you think you are or not. Even people who may have supported this administration because they felt like it wasn't going to touch them, and they're finding out, no, it's touching you too. And that's part of what a lot of us have been saying throughout the years. Like, if this goes on to continue, it's going to continue to build like a pressure point, and it's finally going to reach its limit. And I think we're here. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that we're here, but it's kind of like it's been a long time coming, and it's time, unfortunately, that people see it. Sadly, sometimes people have to see it or experience it to
Mhm.
really understand. So yeah. So yeah, we got to keep conversations like this going, music like yours. Speaking of music, your album Gradient, that also came out in the spring, correct?
It came out in the winter at the beginning of the year, January 12th. I
Oh,
dropped.
okay.
Yeah. So it was at the beginning of the year, and then following the EP, I had released "No One Is Illegal."
Okay, okay, got it. And like I know some of the proceeds to your music go toward causes that we're speaking about today, like anti ICE, mutual aid, anti protests.
Yep.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I felt like in the moment, especially when we had this big surge of 3,000 federal agents coming into terrorize our communities during Operation Metro Surge. I felt like it was important for me to use my music in a way that kind of goes beyond just creating the music. And so I used the Bandcamp sales off of my Bandcamp page um,
Hmm.
to go towards mutual aid, and I was just using the money and going and doing supply runs and bringing them to one of the many mutual aid hubs that were functioning um, throughout the surge. And so there was that level. I feel like being an artist, I think it's important that, again, going beyond just the music creation, right? Because I made a protest anthem, and I understand that, like, not every artist is meant to make protest anthems or
Yeah,
protest music. I just fit
gotcha.
into it, you know what I mean? And I've done several protest anthems already in my catalog,
Hmm.
and I felt like, oh, you know what, it's really important um to do another one, but not everybody has that sound. Not
Yeah.
everybody and so my call to my fellow artists is, okay, if you're not going to make protest music because it doesn't fit your sound, that's totally okay. How are you using your own platforms or using
Hmm.
your own voices, because we have power as artists, and
Hmm.
like, how are you using your voices to fight against systems that are harming our community members, right? And I mean, this speaks to the broader conversation of, like, our community members who are being harmed from across communities. It could be the Black
Hmm.
community, Latino community, it could be the LGBT community, so
Hmm.
many different um communities that are under attack right now, and we have an opportunity to use our voices and influence and have an impact on people. And so Gradient really the theme of the project itself wasn't like a protest
Yeah.
record really at all. It was more speaking to my identity as
Okay.
a Dakota and Boricua artist from the south side of Minneapolis, and what my own personal narrative looks like and
It
sounds
felt
like.
very mellow. I do want to say that it gave
Yeah.
mellow. So I want to put that out there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of vibes that are like real chill, and also just kind of speaks to um yeah, just it's very Minneapolis, and it's very representative of my identities, and I think
Mhm, mhm.
it was important to talk about. And so when I did No One Is Illegal, I was like, okay, I got to do something entire like very different from
Yeah.
Gradient, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like I want to do something that's going to really rally people up and get people
Mhm,
going,
mhm.
and Gradient is more, I feel like it has a somewhat of a winter tone to it, and it's, there's a chill like vibiness to it
Mhm.
that I really enjoy, but it just kind of speaks to, the history of being indigenous, pre-colonialism, post-colonialism. It speaks to being indigenous and Boricua today, and what that looks like, and
Mhm,
I
mhm.
think it's just, we're a blend, like the whole, like this whole country, to go back to the whole, to like the immigration conversation. This whole
Mhm,
country was founded, first on the stealing of the labor of black people, right? Of course, as we know, and
mhm,
then the stealing of the land of indigenous people.
mhm,
um
mhm.
but aside from the indigenous populations, everybody else came here, right? And it was, you know colonialism mixed us up in so many different ways, and that's why I
Yeah.
speak to that gradient, because
Mhm.
we are so mixed. And
That makes
sometimes,
sense, yeah.
right, and sometimes, that history of mixing is really ugly, and it comes with a lot of
Yeah.
pain, you know what I mean? But it's also beautiful at the same time,
Mhm.
because we created beauty out of it, because we are resilient in that way. And that's what the project speaks to as well. Not just the pain and the sorrow and the ugliness, but the beauty
Yeah.
and the art and the hope and the resilience as well.
Yeah, yeah, and you do sometimes think about that too, like, I found out on my father's side, there's Boricua on that side of the family, and no clue where it came from. I just
Right?
know we had they were like, "This is a second cousin," that, like, I did do, like, the DNA test or whatever,
Okay.
and it was just like, "What? Where did this come from?"
Yeah.
But
That's
it's
probably
cool.
That New York Puerto Rico
Definitely, 'cause I'm born and
connection.
raised. Yep,
You say you
and
from
that's how
Brooklyn?
well, I live in Brooklyn now, but I'm actually from Harlem, East Harlem, Spanish Harlem.
Okay, okay.
So
You know why I was in okay, so a lot of Puerto Ricans then. Okay. I was there recently. So my project Gradient was a part of this bigger project called Recomposing America through the American Composers Forum, and they're based in New York. And
Okay.
we had a convening where we all got together. And one of my projects was to go down to the South Bronx. Well, really go up to the South
Mm,
Bronx,
mhm, mhm.
and go to the birthplace of hip hop, and go to Hip
Yeah,
Hop
yep,
Boulevard, and where the first DJ Cool Herc
yep,
parties
my
were.
mom lives not far from there still.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool, yeah, yeah. And we went, and it was like, um I just wanted to pay homage, of course,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
black people invented hip hop. Puerto Ricans, we had our involvement, during the formation of it as well.
Mhm,
And I just wanted
mhm.
to be there, like in person, to go down and pay homage. But we also stopped through Harlem East, I believe it was East Harlem. I know there was like the Graffiti Wall of Fame was
Okay,
there.
okay.
And
That
I'm
sounds like
trying,
East Harlem.
I can't remember exactly when or where. But what I will say, there was a big difference between, because they put me up in a hotel in Midtown,
Yeah,
and right, and
very different.
I was like, man, this is so corporate. Like, what is going
Yeah,
on
yeah.
right now? I'm
Even
like,
with the gentrification, because Harlem is very gentrified now, but there's
oh, is it
still,
okay?
yeah, that the originals, the original
Right.
stronghold of Harlem is still it's still there, and it's still noticeable the difference in like
Okay.
a Midtown versus a Harlem.
Okay, yeah, it felt like when I was, when we were in Harlem, and we weren't there for too long, but my friend was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go check out the Wall of Fame, and the Graffiti Wall of Fame, and you can take pictures and hang out." And I'm like, "All right, cool." And I was there, and I was like, "Man, this feels like there's so much more." Um, it just felt like culturally rich compared to
Mhm.
being in um Midtown where I'm like
Yeah.
the lights are just everything is really bright
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything around you is just corporate America, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Yeah, and so, not to say that all sides of Manhattan are like that, I went down to I like going to the Lower East Side. It's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's pretty dope.
It's changing down there too, unfortunately.
Yeah,
That it used to be like a Puerto Rican stronghold, and I'm sure
yeah,
there's some OGs still holding out, but
a
it's
little
it's
bit.
changing. But the soul is
Uh,
still there.
okay, yeah, yeah. And then I mean the first time I went to New York, I did go to Brooklyn. I was in Sunset Park
Okay.
and I enjoyed
Mhm.
that a lot.
Mhm.
It felt good. It was a good vibe, you know. But yeah, I was out there for this convening in this project, Gradient. So this whole project, Recomposing America, is really focusing on artists of color and how we are composing, and it's really spotlighting artists that are making music that are not white, and it's a reflection of what America really looks
Mhm.
like, and to go right back to the conversation about immigration, aside from indigenous people, everybody else came from a different part of the world, and it is
Mhm.
super international. And it's like, how is this administration trying to deport people? It's like, y'all came from Europe, y'all came from somewhere else too. At some
Yep.
point, y'all came here. So how, like, this is totally hypocritical for y'all to try to tell somebody else to not be on this land that is stolen
Exactly.
anyways, you know,
Exactly.
right? So no one is illegal. Is like, look, this is stolen land. How can you tell somebody is illegal on this land when you illegally acquired it
Mhm.
by theft, through theft?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
stole it, and you want to say that y- someone is illegal on this land? No, like, honestly, you're illegal. The United States, you are illegally squatting on this
Yeah.
land, trying to tell people that, but yeah, no one is illegal on stolen land. I don't know exactly who came up with that, phrase, but
Mhm.
we hear it all over the place.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think it's important for us to keep on with these phrases, and it's important that they're in the windows of all the restaurants and businesses. Like, you come to Minneapolis, you're gonna see "fuck ice, ice out" everywhere, lawn signs,
Ah.
in the coffee shops, in the boutiques, all over the place. That's what you see because it has an impact. People are like, "Oh, how does art have an impact?" Right? And it's like, a lot of these ICE agents, imagine what goes on in their psyche when they're cruising around and they're like, "Wow, everybody hates us. Maybe I'm doing something wrong."
Yeah, yeah. And you say that you call it out because it is a question that we want. Like, what are you thinking? Like, how do you feel? Like, how? Like, it's really psychotic. And I know there's people that try to, um, not. I don't know about just many rationalize it. Like, oh well, they need a paycheck too. I mean, a lot of us we know what this society is. A lot of us need money. A lot of us need paychecks, right? But I know personally, I wouldn't do that. I'd rather just live in a box outside. You wouldn't see
I
me
know.
doing that.
You couldn't pay me any amount of money. You couldn't pay me billions of dollars to rip a family apart,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what? That is egregious. Are you like, what is going on? And so a lot of these ICE agents were incentivized. So they got like a 50 or $60,000 sign-on bonus
Mhm.
that they would get
Mhm.
paid incrementally, which they didn't, a lot of them didn't know. And
And
they were
some of them have
sold.
accents. Some of them aren't even from here either.
Some of them look like me. They're straight up Latino, and it's like, what are you doing? What
Yeah.
are you're Latino and you're what? Um, but the money, right? They get paid like a good salary, and then they get paid, for a lot of them, it's like kind of like a way out. It's just like the
Mhm.
US military, right? For a lot
Mhm.
of people, they go to reservations to recruit. They go to,
Yeah. They be in
poor
the
black
hood.
communities. Yup.
Mhm.
They're in Flint, Michigan, super heavy, because they know that they can kind of prey on, marginalized people as and sell it as a way out. And so
Yeah.
a lot of the same dynamic plays out with ICE, and they have this huge multi-million dollar recruitment campaign going on
Mhm,
saying
mhm,
join ICE. And a lot of these new ICE agents, they buy the narrative and they
mhm,
think and believe, oh, I'm going to be helping catch criminals and I get paid
mhm,
really
mhm.
well. I get to get out of my shitty scenario,
Yeah,
and I can have a stable future, right? And so they're sold, right? They buy into that narrative, and so they get on the job and then they realize what they're actually doing, and they're like,
yeah.
"Oh, dang, I didn't realize, um, you know, I'm splitting up a family and this little girl is never going to see her parents
Mhm,
ever again, and
mhm,
now she's in the
mhm.
foster uh um system, and or she's gonna be sent to a detention center to
Yeah,
be sleeping with them little foil blankets, and all those images that you're seeing, and it's like, dude, and they're waking up to it. So what I've been learning is that the turnover for ICE agents is pretty high, and a
not
lot of them are
surprising.
a lot of them are quitting. The recruitment initiative is even higher
Okay.
because again, they're putting hundreds of
Mhm,
millions of dollars of our tax money.
mhm,
They're putting
mhm.
billions of dollars into ICE of our tax money, right? Um, and recruiting. And so recruitment is still really, really high, but the turnover is really high as well, too, because they're being fed this lie, they're being fed this narrative, they're being brainwashed. And
Mhm.
hopefully more of them continue to turn. Hopefully
Yeah.
more of these Trump supporters continue to turn and start waking up to the fact that the American voters who voted for Trump were also fed a lie,
Mhm.
right? What's going on? Oh, he was gonna Trump was said he wasn't going to be going to war. He said he was going to keep prices low. The price at the pump is crazy right now.
Woo.
We're in a stupid war
Yep.
with Iran. What are we saying?
Yep.
So a lot of people are turning, and even like really popular people, like influential people like Tucker Carlson, for
Yeah.
example, is like, oh dang, he just woke up and was like, I got to speak out against this now, right? And it was like,
Which is wild, yeah.
it's wild, but that's what it's going to take. More people have to turn, more people have to wake up. Like you said earlier, I mean, it sucks that it takes your own people getting attacked, and it sucks that people wake up when it finally directly impacts
Mhm,
them. You know
mhm.
what I mean? But it's like, all right, well, if that's what it takes, it's just like white. There's so many white people here, and I'm like, dang, I'm like, I've never seen white people lock in ever the way they locked in during
Yeah,
Operation Metro Surge.
yeah.
And it was dope to see because it's like, finally, like, y'all are getting with it and y'all are putting your bodies on the line. And that's what Renee Good and Alex Preddy did. They
Mhm,
became
mhm.
martyrs, for the movement. And it was like, that's we have to see more white accomplices really take on this role. Not saying like go get killed, absolutely not. You know what I mean? But um, you know, we native people, black people, marginalized people, trans people, people of color,
Mhm.
have been getting killed over and over and over again, and we have been screaming, hey, justice, right? And so it's sad that Alex Preddy and Renee Good were murdered.
Mhm.
And it's
And
heartbreaking,
it's even the
and
list
it's,
is even longer than that too, to be honest.
yeah, for sure. But because they were white
Yeah, 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 yeah.
is the reason why a lot of white people finally woke up, because it
Mhm.
was like, oh, y'all can get it too, you
Yeah.
know and
Yeah.
it's fucked. And it's like, damn, it's shitty that y'all are now seeing it because our people have been getting murdered. Indigenous people and black people get murdered at the highest
Mhm,
rates
and go
of any
missing at
other.
the highest rates.
Right, right. Police brutality cases, and so we're looking at this like, damn, like why did it, it sucks that it took one of your own to finally see that, but still, people are
Mhm,
waking up. I haven't seen white allyship at this level before, and so yeah, I mean the fight and the pushback against it, we just have to stay locked in, we got to stay locked in and continue to push because revolution in any revolutionary movement that happened, it was the long game that you know
yeah.
the people
Even
engaged in.
even what we're in now, like the GOP definitely played a long like this coup that we're in the midst of, it's been a long silent coup just
Mhm.
happening for centuries even. Like if you I'm a history nerd, so I'm like honestly since the Civil War ended, right? Like I always say like the Civil
Yeah.
War it just went cold. And
Mhm.
that's kind of what we're seeing today. Like they just played the long game.
Yeah, I mean w- what's interesting, to go back to my point about turning, normally the Republican Party is very loyalist,
Mhm.
no matter who is in office,
Mhm.
right? And it's
Mhm.
been very loyal, and that's that long game that you're talking about, that loyalty that goes all the way back. But Donald Trump is changing this up a little bit to
Mhm.
where it's like even his own fellow like Republicans, some of them are like, no, I can't get with this. This is not it, and
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
I think it's just gonna take it's gonna take more white people, honestly, working class and poor white people that think that Trump cares about them.
Mhm.
They believe that they're one and the same with Donald Trump, even though he does
Mhm.
not give a shit about them.
Mhm.
Once
Mhm.
they realize they have more in common with all other ordinary
Yeah.
people,
Yep.
and realize, oh shit, they're screwing us all over.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is because racism is used to divide us and pit
Mhm.
us against each other,
Mhm.
right? Whereas, class warfare impacts all of us that are
Mhm.
divided, and there's
Mhm.
one common enemy. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And like we don't I feel like we spend a lot of time talking about racism, and it's real and it's prevalent and it's there and it exists. But
The
I feel
intersection of
like
class.
class, like,
Yeah.
man, like people want to say, white people want to say they're superior, but I'm like, yo, like you're just as normal as any other
Mhm.
person. I done seen
Mhm.
your trailer parks. You know what I mean? Like, you're just as normal as anybody else, you know what I mean? And the reason why you're living in a trailer park is because opportunity is not coming to you, because you have leaders who are corrupt, who are hoarding the money supply, and the
Mhm.
1% and the elite, um even though they think they are a part of this, elite class, the wealthiest 1%, they don't give a shit about
Mm-mm. And
any
Martin
of
Luther King
these.
talked about this, Malcolm X talked about that, all of these revolutionaries before this generation, they talked about this.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And so it's going to take, and that's why I think, education is super important, and just, um, you know, having difficult conversations with
Mhm.
people, making connections with people, not isolating ourselves from
Yeah.
people,
Yes, community.
right. Community is super important, because again, there's a whole attempt at keeping us separate, and
Mhm.
they're pitting us against each other. But once we go beyond that and break down those colonial walls, and really start working with each other, and we saw a small version of that play out during the uprising in 2020, or Operation Metro Surge, where it was
Mhm.
like, oh, we're connecting, we're connecting, and this is how you build power, you
Mhm.
know, through coalition building, through community organizing, through just regular neighbors and people in the community that are like, hey, I want to get involved. They're not even activists on any level, but they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
we
yeah.
got to do something, and that's those are examples of power building that I've seen, and that's a big part of the reason why we kind of got them out of here. Like they're still here, mind you. There's still 500 ICE agents across the Twin Cities metro area and deeper into Minnesota.
Oh, wow,
Um,
okay.
3,000 though, and the pushback and the organizing of the people, ordinary people, along with 30,000 people got legal observer training during
Oh,
Operation
wow.
Metro Surge. So many people got trained in mutual aid. You know, organizers were trained in so many different ways. Ordinary people, neighbors got to know each other. And then we also had the general strike, and after this happens, we got this open letter from the Chamber of Commerce, because Minnesota is a Fortune 500 corporate hub. There's a lot of
Mm, okay, that makes
corporations that
sense.
are from here. Target, Best Buy,
Yeah,
General Mills. I mean, there's a ton of them, right? And they all came out with this joint statement saying, "Hey, let's not escalate this," And this was after the general strike, so
okay.
general strikes general strikes work. Organizing the people work, using social media to document what's going
Mhm,
on
mhm,
works, connecting with each other, all of this works, and so it kind of built in a way like a framework for other cities to use, during these times of extreme fascism.
mhm.
And my hope is that people take the knowledge that we have here in Minneapolis, and they're able to use that. It's going to look different in every city, because
Yeah,
the landscape might be different, and whatever else, but my hope is that we're able to use this as like a ripple effect, and impact communities, and also the communities that have already been pushing back against ICE outside of Minnesota too, LA and Chicago and
mhm,
across
mhm,
Texas, you know what I mean? Learning from their tactics as well.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna wind down this conversation
Mhm.
with you just telling me what your next moves are. What are you working on for the rest of the year? What's any
Yeah.
tours coming up?
Yeah, totally. So I mean, as I mentioned, I just got off a Europe tour. I was there for 3 weeks, so I'm kind of
Hmm.
kind of relaxing for a bit. I am a teaching artist, and so
I
I'm gonna
saw
be,
that. Wave
yeah, I'm gonna
Warriors, right?
wave warrior. Yup.
Wait,
And so
okay.
um, I I teach audio production, songwriting, and recording. So I will be visiting different communities. I make
Oh,
songs with. It's been primarily indigenous youth, but it's
okay.
expanding too.
Hmm.
But I make songs with youth from start to finish. We make the beats, we write the lyrics, and we
That's
record.
cool.
I also mix and master it. I'm a sound engineer. So working on the Wave Warrior program
Hmm.
for youth, as well as I got some new music being worked on. Some of it is collaborative with some of the artists that I'm working with in Europe,
Okay.
out in Amsterdam. I just finished a track. I got another solo song that I'm working on right now. So I just been in the studio like creating, and then yeah, going out to Puerto Rico and just kind of recharging for a month as well,
Yeah.
to visit
Yeah.
family, to study bomba, study
Oh, that's so nice.
study bomba y plena, study the music,
Yeah.
and just connect with family, and just work on video projects, and continue pushing the songs. And then of course the music video, I don't have a date for it yet, but No One
Okay.
Is Illegal music video is going to be dropping, and I'll let you know all the details on it once
Okay.
once I get them. So
Sounds
yeah.
good. Nice, nice. I just started teaching media to kids, media literacy with the
Nice.
emphasis on podcasting. So and that's been an interesting experience. I have 10-year
Okay.
olds. So
Nice. Oh, that's
yeah.
cool. So you're kind of a teaching artist too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
It's
dope.
good work. I think it's important work. I resisted it for a long time. That it's a whole other story how I got into it, but I resisted it for a long time. But now I'm like, no, it's I've always had a soft spot for teaching artists anyway, because I do think it's good work. Like we gotta get them when they're young and receptive. So
Yeah, totally. I
yeah.
feel like teaching artists, they are, we are more receptive because like I go into a community, right, and they see me as this like tattooed like rapper
Yeah.
singer, uh indigenous Latinx dude, and they're like, man, I could really connect with this guy, as opposed to their like
Mhm.
72-year-old white man like history teacher.
Exactly.
There's a disconnect there. So
Yeah.
you're totally right. There is definitely more of a, I feel like there's just more of a connection, and it's more approachable when
Mhm.
the people who are doing art actively and coming from the communities too
Yes.
come in and teach. There's an openness about that, and it really works.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. Well, I'll end the night here. We'll definitely keep up with your journey. And I
Yes.
thank you for lending me your time and your wisdom. And yeah, we look forward to what else you have coming up. And we'll link your contacts and all the good stuff when we render this video and all that
Yes.
stuff. So thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much. Yes, it's been an
Yes.
honor talking to you. And yeah, let's be in touch real soon.
Yep. Enjoy the rest of your night.
All right, you too. Peace.
Bye.